smart construction managers, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're building a robust mental framework for managing global engineering and construction projects. Now, if you're a professional in the CM space, you already know that managing a build is tough enough in your own backyard, right? I mean, even when you actually know all the local rules. But what happens when we cross borders and literally everything you know changes? Well, we're going to start with an easy, accessible approach today, and then dive deep into some really comprehensive professional frameworks. And to do that, we'll be using Japan's highly advanced and complex infrastructure environment as our blueprint.
Here is our quick roadmap for today's session. First up is the global construction shift. Then we'll map out project complexity. From there, we hit context, strategy, and objectives, followed by culture, tech, and communication. And finally, we'll wrap the whole thing up with safety and site controls. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's jump right in.
All right, let's start by laying down our foundation. Section 1, the global construction shift. So, as a construction manager stepping into the international arena, you really got to ask yourself this fundamental question. When exactly does a project shift from being a local build to a global endeavor? Is it only when you finally get on an airplane, desperately trying to learn a new language on the flight over?
Well, actually, no. The fascinating truth is that your project goes global the exact second your supply chain, your financing, or your design standards cross a national boundary. Modern projects are like these giant interconnected puzzles linking lenders, fabricators, and designers from all over the world. A customs delay in a fabrication yard 5,000 miles away? Yeah, that will immediately blow up your schedule and your cost baseline back home. So you are actively managing a global project way before you ever pack your bags.
And this fundamentally changes your daily reality. Domestically, you're operating on familiar assumptions. Known codes, standard procurement, predictable labor. Your biggest headache is usually just standard site or schedule risks. But step into the global arena. You move from simply coordinating work packages to playing three-dimensional chess with foreign labor rules, currency fluctuations, and completely different legal systems. Suddenly, a single missing import form can halt a multi-million-dollar concrete pour. You have to account for contract enforceability under entirely different political regimes. It is a whole different ballgame.
Okay, so now that we understand that fundamental shift, let's explore how industry leaders actually mitigate these cross-border risks. Section 2, mapping project complexity. As a global E&C project manager, think of yourself as the central hub. You have to balance 5 massive competing forces all at once: the country context, the stakeholders and culture, your delivery strategy, your risk and compliance protocols, and of course, your basic controls for cost, schedule, and quality. You're functioning as both a technical manager and a high-level cultural representative. The impression you leave on local partners while balancing these 5 areas is absolutely crucial. It dictates exactly how smoothly your project runs and how future foreign teams will be received. Now, to make sense of these somewhat overwhelming responsibilities, professionals rely on something called the Project Objective Model, or POM for short. This framework is brilliant because it separates 2 interacting global forces that honestly often get confused. First, we have project complexity. This is your technical and labor requirement access. Basically, does the build require massive amounts of heavy labor, or is it highly technical and specialized? Second, we have project dimension, and this is your social-cultural access. Who has to actually live with this project, and how are critical decisions made in that local community? By plotting your project out, technical complexity on one axis, social-cultural dimension on the other, you instantly visualize your management strategy. The goal here isn't to memorize project types, it's to ask, where does my specific build sit? Finding that exact intersection is a real game changer. It determines precisely how your team must adapt its staffing, training, procurement, and quality control, so you can succeed in a foreign market without stepping on local toes or compromising your engineering standards. With our conceptual frame properly established, it's time to dive a bit deeper into the actionable professional process for execution. Section 3, context, strategy, and objectives. To deliver a project responsibly in a totally new context, CMs use a very comprehensive 6-step methodology. First, you screen the context and set your objectives. Then, you lock in your delivery method. During the build itself, you're constantly managing cultural communication and information flows, all the way through to final safety sign-offs and asset handover. Having this structure really takes the chaos out of entering a completely new market. To anchor this abstract process in reality, we're going to view each of these steps through a specific Japan lens. Why Japan?
Well, if you're working in Tokyo, Osaka, or Kyoto, you are dealing with extreme variables. We're talking incredibly dense urban sites, demanding requirements for highly reliable public infrastructure, massive seismic resilience protocols, and exceedingly strict quality documentation. Evaluating these steps through the intense context of Japan serves as an absolute masterclass in global project management. As a practical rule, you literally cannot simply copy-paste a US project delivery playbook into another country. In Japan, for instance, you must actively map local realities like the incredibly strict Building Standards Act. That requires comprehensive notifications before a single shovel even hits the dirt. For procurement, you have to adapt to Japan's Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism, or MLIT guidelines. You utilize their specific CM models to ensure transparent cost structures and extremely strict site supervision. You've got to mold your entire approach to fit the host country's legal and procedural bedrock. Moving right along into the next phase of our process, we hit the critical need to manage information transfer across diverse teams. Section 4. Culture, Tech, and Communication. Listen, global projects absolutely depend on flawless information flow. Drawings, RFIs, inspection records, they all have to cross organizational boundaries and languages without losing an ounce of meaning. This is exactly why Japan's MLIT launched the Eisai Construction Initiative, which aims to apply BIM and CIM principles to almost all public works projects. And this isn't just about making cool 3D data models. It's a strategic move to optimize development, improve productivity, and directly combat their severe domestic labor and aging workforce shortages. But hey, technology alone doesn't solve every global management problem. As a CM professional, you have to integrate these digital tools while simultaneously managing some really intense physical and social constraints. On a Japanese site, you're dealing with extremely dense urban coordination. You interface directly with active transit lines, very closely packed neighbors, all while adhering to impossibly strict local noise and vibration limits. Your high-tech, clash-free BIM model, it still has to perfectly sync up with the very real physical constraint of sneaking a massive crane through downtown Tokyo at 2 a.m. And finally, we complete our process with Step 6, focusing on a global project manager's ultimate, absolute responsibility. Section 5, Safety and Site Controls. Safety is both a strict legal mandate and your fundamental management responsibility. Globally, you have to communicate hazard analyses across multiple languages. In Japan, this means translating global expectations into local law, like the Industrial Safety and Health Act. For internationally financed projects, you'll see JICA standard safety specifications used to elevate overall performance. And how do you solve those severe labor constraints safely? That is managed through the Specified Skilled Worker Status, which requires careful skills evaluations and Japanese language criteria to make sure foreign workers are safely integrated into the site environment. Now let's bring all of this right down to the ground level. When you're walking a site in a seismically active, dense urban zone in Japan, you aren't just looking at standard construction. Every detail you observe commands respect. An advanced earthquake resistance barrier, a meticulously planned evacuation route, specialized temporary works, a complex utility protection scaffold. These aren't just physical structures, they are highly calculated project management artifacts. Every single inspection tag and daily meeting board reflects intentional decisions about risk, quality, and accountability in a global context. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative thought for your next cross-border endeavor. Whether you're building a high-speed rail line in Asia or a massive commercial high-rise in Europe, ask yourself, are you just exporting a blueprint to a new GPS coordinate, or are you engineering a project that breathes, flexes, and survives within the unique legal, cultural, and seismic DNA of its host country? Because mastering the context is the absolute only way you truly master the project. Thanks so much for learning with us today.